how's it going, everybody? Welcome to FoundFlix. On this Ending Explained, we're celebrating the holiday season with the Finnish flick Rare Exports. We're in the depths of the Korvatunturi mountains. A group discovers the closest guarded secret of Christmas buried within, the real-life Santa Claus. However, this is not the jolly one that kids believe in, but something much more sinister and dangerous. Amongst the many holiday horror flicks out there, Rare Exports stands out for its unique take on the Santa mythology, as well as its breathtaking Finnish setting, and is one that is definitely on my yearly rewatch list. Based on a pair of very clever short films from writer-director Jalmari Helander, the full-length Rare Exports is truly something special. Perhaps it's because of the childlike innocence of our main character at the heart of the story, who from the beginning believes that Santa really is out there. It just frames the whole thing in a very particular way because of this perspective, almost feeling like a fairy tale come to life. And indeed, some aspects were based on the real Finnish version of Santa Claus, whose name I'm not even going to try and pronounce. I also appreciate how it ramps up over the runtime, unraveling a mystery of sorts and evolving into a full-blown action flick by the end. Kids hanging off helicopters and shit. So let's check out Rare Exports, breaking down the story, what this version of Santa is all about, and explaining the ending that harkens back to the original short film. A big clapboard clanks down, informing us that it's 24 days until Christmas. Deep in the Finnish mountains, a large corporation has been drilling in search of something in particular, and it looks like from their latest sample they might have found something. The driller, Green, is a bit worried by their latest sample, dumping out a pile of sawdust. The strange thing is this layer of sawdust is 65 feet, which makes no sense to him. However, it makes perfect sense to the mysterious cane-twirling Riley. In the olden days, people would store ice by encasing it in sawdust. He thinks the entire mountain is like a giant icebox, but as for what it's storing, they'll have to keep digging to find out. He hands over some odd new safety instructions, Green chuckling when reading to remember to watch behind your ears. Basically, a lot of behavior that could be considered naughty. It's no joke to Riley, though, who grabs him by the ear, warning to watch his mouth. It's Christmas time, you better start acting like it. Two kids, Juuso and Pietari, are spying on the crew behind some crates. A new sample is brought up, handed to Riley in a blanket. He unwraps a tube of ice and is pleased, beaming that he's always believed. He addresses the crew about the importance of what they found. What has been his dream since his early childhood is about to come true. He gets teary-eyed, informing the group that they are standing on the biggest burial mound in the world. He continues that the Sami people of Lapland took centuries to build this mountain, and tasks them with 24 days to open it, aka Christmas Day. He tells them to do what they do best. You have a grave to rob. The kids flee back to their snowmobile, and Pietari already believes that Santa might be buried in the mountain. He asks his friend if Santa is dead, and he scoffs that he's a baby for even believing. Pietari is let down by the lie. Then who has been coming to his house and giving him presents all these years? Well, probably just a friend of his dad's. The whole Christmas thing is one big bluff, he says, disappointing the boy. Then there's a huge explosion at the top of the mountain, implying that crew is gonna get to whatever is buried there soon enough. The boy dives right into research on the subject matter of Santa and discovers the original, much darker incarnation of the legend. The pages featuring different interpretations of Father Christmas, such as wearing a skull and carrying a stick to wallop naughty children. On another page, there's Santa's footprints in the snow, and then another with him looking sickly with horns and quite menacing. Basically, the OG Santa was more about scaring kids into behaving well. As for the naughty, they would get thrown into cauldrons and punished severely for their bad behavior. He struggles to reconcile with this version of Santa and draws a traditional hat over the horns, trying to keep his fantasy alive. From here we jump to one day before Christmas. Pietari's father Reuno is out in the snow assembling a trap, covering a hole with branches and then snow. He dangles a pig head over the hole, hearing wolves howling in the wilderness. At home he shouts for his boy to wake up, seeing his entire room is littered with books. A snowball does the trick, startling the boy out of his slumber. He scolds his stuffed animal Vupe for not holding up his side of keeping watch. Approaching an advent calendar, the boy is now fearful of what could soon be unleashed and puts a piece of tape over the door for Christmas Eve. That's not gonna work. He looks outside and sees footprints on the roof, just like in the book. It could have been his dad though, and he pounds on his workshed door to speak to him. Reuno shouts that if he wants to talk, he'll have to come in. The boy is skittish to enter, and we discover why that is, as his father is in the process of butchering a reindeer. He inquires about the footprints, and gruff Reuno does not have time for such stupid questions. The boy presses him, and he admits that he was not on the roof, and now now Pietari believes that Santa is spying on them, glancing toward the mountain. They set out on their snowmobile, trekking through some seriously breathtaking vistas. They come to a neighbor's newly constructed electric fence, as there's been a rash of wolves in the area lately which could impact their important reindeer business. Thusly, Pipparinen constructed the fence to protect their meat. His dad hands him a rifle, and the boy is curious if it's loaded. Of course it is. What good would it be otherwise? Juuso is dubious of his shooting skills, but Pietari is confident that he can use it. He's gonna use it to shoot Santa Claus. They spot a reindeer approaching, followed by another, but they're disappointed that it's just two runts. Pietari hopes that maybe the others just got lost, but his father knows better. Something, most likely wolves, has taken out the majority of the flock. The group goes out to search and comes to a horrifying sight. A field filled with many reindeer corpses. Merry Christmas, Pip grumbles. They approach the gate, finding another neighbor, Aimo, who points out a hole in the fence, and the blame is placed on nasty Russian wolves. Of course, it was the boys who cut the hole in the first place, so this big blunder is on their shoulders. Juuso refuses to take responsibility, urging his friend to keep his lips shut. They were never by the gate, capiche? The group is pissed at the digging crew and wants to go shoot them up, but Pip thinks that they must have left, as it's been quiet up there for days now. They don't have any insurance either, so they are pretty much screwed. They counted over 400 reindeer, which adds up to about $85,000 along with 22% VAT. That's quite a bit of money that they were all depending on that is just gone. Although it doesn't appear that wolves were actually responsible for the slayings. Pietari lifts up a body with a stick, discovering a human-like footprint underneath, and confides in his doll that he must have been hungry. Rauno has had enough and shoots the lock off, ready to pay the crew a visit. Pip urges him not to, as they have guards ordered to shoot anyone on sight. He is undeterred after they mess with his livelihood. It takes them all the way until nightfall to make it up the mountain to reach the dig site, Pip complaining that this was one hell of an idea. They enter the main building, and spotting some coffee left in a mug, they realize the crew must have left in quite a hurry. Outside, Pip turns on a work light and shouts for the others to come take a look, leaving Pietari on his own. He rummages through the papers left, and thanks to one, knows that they must have unearthed Santa. We see where he came from when they step out to a massive gaping hole in the ground, and yeah, it looks like they got something out of there for sure. Rauno tests how deep the hole is, dropping a flare, and it goes way down. With nothing else they can do, they return home defeated. Pietari wants to make extra sure that Santa is not unleashed, stapling the door on his advent calendar repeatedly to keep it closed. He has put together a makeshift superhero ensemble which doesn't impress Juuso, saying that he looks like a baby in a diaper. Pietari hands over pages from his books explaining this is the real Santa. It's the jolly Coca-Cola version that is a fraud. Juuso dismisses this as just a fairy tale, and he fires back, this isn't, showing him that picture from the site. It's the real Santa Claus, the one that tears kids to pieces. Juuso asks how he even ended up there, and Pietari tells him about how the Sami people trapped him in ice. The lake froze over and Santa was trapped. Come summer, they dug out the huge block of ice and buried it under a sky-high pile of rocks. And that became the mountain, Juuso asks. Yup, he confirms, and he laughs, calling him an idiot. There's another pressing concern. Should they confess for what they did? Lying is pretty naughty after all. Juuso maintains to say nothing. What do you think his dad would do if he found out he was responsible for losing all those reindeer? Yeah, that probably wouldn't be good. His dad offers him some gingerbread cookies, and the boy is delighted. They're just as good as what mom used to make. Pietari has an important question for his pops. Am I a good boy? Rauno gets a tear in his eyes, declaring all good boys should be in bed by now. They share a downbeat exchange of Merry Christmas, and the boy returns to his room. He does his best to keep watch, but cannot fight the sleepies forever. At a different Sub-Zero Inc. facility, Green is flipping his lid after discovering what they did. Riley asks if the cargo is ready for tomorrow, and Green yells for him to stop. We've got to put a hold on everything. It's not cargo, it's got a pulse. Riley tells him to calm down and follow those safety instructions, and Green growls back, fuck your instructions. Suddenly, everyone else around him vanishes, only their spinning helmets left behind. Green is horrified, and a figure is there ready to take him out too. In the morning, Rauno goes to get a fire started, only to get a blast of soot back in his face. Pietari springs into action, rushing downstairs. His dad tells him to get back, using a chair for protection. He leans right into the chimney, pulling out a bear trap, obviously his boy's doing. Rauno is pissed and grounds him for Christmas. No skating for you, young man. He goes outside to rock a whiz, and he notices that the bait is missing from the trap. Rauno grabs his gun, and they approach the trap, constantly having to tell Pietari to stay back, but he keeps following closer, really wanting to see what they've captured. They come to the hole, and Dad finds a feather, some kind of bird he assumes. Yet, when he pushes back the brush, he spots a hand. He quickly pushes his son away, fibbing that it's nothing. If it's nothing, then why can't I see, the boy complains, and he excuses that they haven't had breakfast yet. Apparently, it's more cookies for breakfast, and a vehicle is heard approaching. approaching. Rayuno tells his boy to stay put for the millionth time, reminding him that he's grounded. He overhears him talking with someone else, and Pietari sneaks upstairs. He watches through the window as his dad and Pip carry an obvious corpse from the hole. They take the body to the processing room and are overwhelmed by his foul stench. They blame the guy for his own fate. You shouldn't be out here trespassing on other people's property. They find a wallet, including a passport, which is actually Mr. Green's. Sure doesn't look like him though. Talk then turns to what to do next. What's their story gonna be? Things are a bit more complicated as well, as the wolf trap Rayuno constructed is actually illegal. With that in mind, he decides to say nothing and ropes Pip into the situation. You're a part of this now, whether you like it or not. As for what to do with the body, the solution is in plain sight. Process it like any other piece of meat. That'll sure help cover things up. Pietari returns to the hole and drops down. There he finds a burlap sack along with a weird wooden bust of a child with blonde hair. The guys get the machine going, and when grabbing the man's hand, he surprisingly pulls away. His nose begins twitching as though smelling something. It must be the delicious boy, spotting Pietari watching from above. They see him spying and the boy runs off, and his dad goes to chase him down. He gets in his truck and a police car drives by, putting him on edge. Of course, Pietari flags him down and gets a ride to his dad's annoyance. They take him right to Aimo's farm, and Rayuno does his best to deflect about all the weirdness going on. Turns out that strange stuff has been going on all over town, and the same goes for at Aimo's. He was worried that his entire stock of potatoes had been taken, but in a quite strange sight, they only took the sacks and left all the potatoes, seeing a massive pile of them stacked in the barn. This wasn't the only thing taken, as many people in town have had their radiators stolen, the cops sighing it's gonna be a cold Christmas. They even stole Aimo's wife's hairdryer for some reason as well. What might they need a lot of heat for? Pietari heads back upstairs to check on his buddy, and it appears that he's asleep. He attempts to wake him and pulls back the covers to another of those weird children carvings. He knows that this means Juuso has been taken, and attempts to tell the adults. They don't buy it, thinking that he's just out chasing girls and will be back soon enough. The officer allows him to leave, and they enlist Aimo to help translate with their new friend as he speaks English. Pip peels back the sheet, and once more the stench of the man is so bad he can barely keep his lunch down. The guy starts sniffing again, looking like he's drawn to the gingerbread cookie. Pip tests his theory, and he does react, trying to chomp at the treat. The man starts to weakly speak, and Pip gets closer. The man then lunges at him, going right for his ear. The others show up later, and Pip is terrified after his encounter, seeing the dude bit most of his ear clean off. He warns him to not go inside. Whatever that is, it is not human. This makes him even more intrigued, and they kick open the doors with their rifles at the ready. The dude is crouching on the other side of the room, and Aimo carefully approaches, asking in English how he likes Finland. He's nervous to continue, and Rayuno joins his side with a mop. He pokes the handle at the man, and he doesn't really respond. Deeming him harmless, Aimo loudly tells him to wake up, we need money. In the house, Pietari is checking into the whereabouts of his friends, and finds that most of them have already gone missing, crossing off another name on the list. The men determine that he must be from the mountain, and decide to take him hostage until someone will pay up. Just as they're about to turn violent on him, the boy returns banging on the door, and the man suddenly perks up again. His dad goes to see what he wants, and the boy has a strange request, asking for him to dole out a spanking. He's been bad. He spills about how they were responsible for the hole, and now he's the only kid left in town. All the other ones have been taken. Before Rayuno can even process this, the others call him back inside. They think the guy is up to something, and manage to bite his stick clean in half. The boy peeks in, and the man eerily turns to face him, noticing an odd twinkle dance in his eyes. They realize he is eyeing the boy, and question him about just who this dude is. Pietari lays it out plainly. It's the one and only Santa Claus. They don't even question this at all, in particular Pip remarking that he's from a fairy tale? Oh, he knew something strange was going on here. The guy starts slowly sauntering towards them, and they shout for him to stand down. Aimo fires a warning shot, and Rayuno pulls the gun away. Bad idea. Don't want to get him mad. They get him bound and chained up, suspending him in the air, and he stares at them intently while they munch down on more cookies. The walkie crackles, and it's a desperate Riley on the other end. Is Santa ready to fly? Rayuno answers that they have the package he's after, and an idea hits him, instructing Aimo to tell him in English that Santy is for sale. They stick him in a Santa suit and load him up in a cage in the truck bed. On the way to their meeting, they discuss how much they should ask for him. They think it's only fair to ask for the amount of the debt, but Pip sees even bigger dollar signs here. I mean, the real Santa Claus? Imagine what that could be worth. They arrive at the drop-off location, and soon after, a Sub-Zero Inc. helicopter makes a quick landing. After some awkward introductions, Riley is willing to do business, but has to see the cargo first. They wheel out the cage, and Riley is overcome at the sight and excitedly tugs at his beard. Pietari stands before a massive and meaningful door marked 24, just like on his advent calendar. He leaves his doll behind and ventures towards the hangar. It's time to face his fears head on. The man's eyes start to glow once more, and Riley freaks. He barks for them to put the weapons down and smile. Be as nice as you can. He explains that this is in fact not Santa Claus himself, but one of his helpers developers an elf. Rayuno is getting frustrated, growling that all he wants is the money. The lights cut out, and Riley knows that this is not good. Santa is gonna find out who's been naughty and who's been nice. One dude gets whisked away, and they spot other elves lingering all around them in the woods. Riley knows they are protecting their master, and then gets an axe right through the skull. Well, so much for the expert. The others run, and the elves descend upon them from every direction, and man, there's a lot of them. The others come to Pietari, staring at something in awe. A massive block of ice with horns protruding from the top. And this must be the real Santa, right out of his books regarding the original legend. They realize the elves are actually trying to defrost him, seeing radiators and heaters pointed at the ice, even including Aimo's wife's hairdryer. And now we get why they stole all the radiators from people's homes. They are trying to bring their boss back to the land of the living. Hearing cries, all the kids are there in sacks, and Aimo emotionally reunites with his boy. The others get to work, taking out all the heaters to slow the defrosting. The door won't hold much longer from the elf horde, and they frantically barricade it with appliances. Time is running out, and the ice starts to crack. Pietari shouts to get everyone to listen to him, but they don't hear him amongst the chaos. He fires off a shot, and that gets their attention mighty quick. He knows that as long as the kids are here, the elves won't leave the hangar. It's either me or Santa, he says dramatically, and pulls back a tarp revealing boxes of explosives. I suggest Santa. They send Pip out on his own with a handful of gingerbread cookies to defend himself. The mini elves are all gathered around wielding various pokey objects. He throws out a cookie like bait towards each of them. One instantly drops his weapon and goes right for the treat. He launches another, and the distraction works long enough for him to make it to the chopper. He radios the boy, letting him know that he's ready for takeoff. In the hangar, they have all the kids gathered up in a big net to whisk them away. Aimo is hesitant to leave his boy again, but Pietari insists that it has to be every one of them or his plan won't work. He grabs onto the net and rides the package as it's lifted into the sky. He shouts back to the others that he'll be fine, just make sure to do your parts. The elves watch on curiously while the children are flown away from the building. Rauno gets to work drilling into the ice and planting explosives in each respective hole. The copter reaches a suitable spot far enough away, and as Pietari suggested, the elves are all rushing their way in massive waves. He figures out the next stage of his plan. They're gonna treat him like reindeer. It takes Pip a second to get what he means, and then it dawns on him. They can use the electric fence to trap the elves. Woohoo! The boy triumphantly declares over a staggering amount of elves below. The other pair get the charges rigged to explode, joking that they've been naughty. Ever wonder how Santa can be in a zillion places at once? Well, here's your answer. That's the magic of Christmas, Aimo agrees, revving a chainsaw. And they proceed to cut off Santa's massive horns, stuffing them in the truck bed. They get the kids to the pen, but the gate is closed, meaning they can't trap the elves inside. Pip suggests that we'll need a new plan, but the boy heroically declares there's no time and offers to do it himself. The stakes are even higher as Pip won't be able to land again, and Pietari is ready to make the ultimate sacrifice to save the day. He dramatically drops from the net in slow motion and catches himself on a tower. He gets the gate open just as the army of naked elven dudes arrive on the scene. He kicks the power on and walkies to Pip to tell his dad of his heroic deed. The herd gets closer and closer and soon crests the gate. Pietari clenches his eyes as he awaits his fate, whispering "Daddy" longingly to himself. Meanwhile, his dad and Aimo drive away from the facility with both horns, leading out a long line to trigger the explosives. They give a nod to kick off the fireworks, and it absolutely obliterates the hangar along with the frozen claws. Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Aimo smiles. Pietari opens his eyes and all the elves have stopped dead in their tracks. He radios Pip asking what happened. A miracle, he replies. You just put those elves out of a job. So without Santa as their master, the elves just kind of hang around. Not much of a threat now. They get the kids back to their homes, and the mission was a resounding success. Way to go, Pietari. You are a real hero, boy. Christmas Day dawns, and the others arrive at the pen. Everyone is overtaken by the strange sight of all the elves just milling around aimlessly. Then another idea dawns on them. 199 Santa Clauses, what's that worth? Well, if one was worth 85K, then after some quick math determined the group would pull in a whopping 16.8 million bucks, plus 22% VAT. Rayuno takes his boy in his arms, proudly calling him quite a man. So are you, his son agrees. And lastly, they begin a new business venture, training all the elves to become Santa Clauses of their own. They get them all hosed down first, and over time they train them in the art of portraying Santa, all clad in white long johns with a gift on their lap along with a makeshift child. They roll by, showing off an example of how they should act with the kids, all gentle and friendly. One goes for the present and is quickly corrected. That's not for you, Fuzzface. His dad imitates giving his son the gift, and the training is starting to pay off. They pick the best one amongst the group and give him his official Santa cap. They get him boxed up in a box marked Rare Exports and ship him off to Zanzibar. They roll the crate out, revealing a massive room stacked with boxes everywhere, which really feels like a reference to the ending of Raiders of the Lost Ark. They open up the garage, and Pip is waiting with a massive cargo plane ready for duty. Well, at least they more than made up for that lost 80K. Their rare export business is freaking huge already. As I mentioned, this sort of feels like an almost origin to the shorts, Exports, which followed the Rare Exports company that specializes in rounding up wild Santa Clauses, training them, and exporting them to locations around the world. So we really are seeing the beginning of that company taking shape at the end here, though they were wild Santas rather than elves. Another aspect not in the shorts is the Sub-Zero Inc. company. Now we don't find out too much about their MO, but they are obviously well funded and organized. And that Riley dude at least knew something about the real Claus and the elves, but they hadn't found him yet by the beginning of the movie. Random thought, but I think it would be cool in a sequel, if that ever happens, to have Sub-Zero try and take revenge on our gang at Rare Exports for nicking their idea. I could see that being a worthy enough story to even warrant a follow-up. But as for now, there is no word of any kind for a sequel. Not that every movie needs one, but I do think there is a lot more they could do in the world created here. That brings us to the conclusion of this ending explained for Rare Exports. But don't forget, before we go, you can send me requests for any movies or TV shows you'd like to see me explain by sending them my way on any of my social media accounts at FoundFlix. What did you think of Rare Exports and its ending? What are your yearly must-watch holiday flicks? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Thanks for watching FoundFlix. See you next time, and happy holidays!